Hi, my name is Damien, and I want to tell you a story about my experience with what I know has been a close encounter. From my childhood, 7 years old, and 1995 and 1996, which were basically all connected. And the reason I'm standing here is because I'm going to get to that in a little while, why this is a significant location as far as the story is concerned. Where the story began as a 7-year-old in New York, Long Island, West Babylon, on Commander Avenue, living in our White House. And it began from having a dream or nightmares or whatever you want to call it, and having a repetitious dream about a soldiers coming in the room. And I talked to my aunt one night about it, and she told me to say a prayer. So I said the prayer, into my bed, hands folded, went to sleep. About probably early in the morning. I know it was early in the morning. I didn't have no clock in the room. I just kind of woke up out of my sleep. And when I woke up, I just kind of opened my eyes and cleared up. And I looked towards my door, because my door was kind of up to the left. And I saw what looked like two people at the door, but I just kind of figured it was my mother or someone in the house. But as I looked closer, as far as my eyes got more clear, I realized that they weren't either one. This is one thing I hadn't seen before. It was just a figure. I could never see that face. It kind of reminded me of a negative, a movie negative. But, you know, to go on, I tried to stare it down and see as much as I can. I could not see a face. I could not see anything. All I knew was a taller one and there was a shorter one, and the man looked like he was carrying something like a camera on his shoulder. You know, like one of those movie cameras, or like, you know, somebody like a film or news crew type of camera. So what I did was, I just, you know, like I said, I laid there. So this kind of went on. You know, if I say the prayer, then I have this, you know, this entity, something will come to the room. And throughout the week, I'd always make sure I would check to make sure the room doesn't make the same type of shadow or light reflection from outside, because we had an outside light in the back, in the front yard. So what I did was I used that as far as to find out whether or not that was the same thing, but it wasn't. So as time went on, we would say the prayer, see them at the door, or have the dream. So I chose to say the prayer, and I would see them at the door. It got to the point where I can just not even wake up and look and just see that they're there. I would wake up and I would hold off before I wake up, because it's like being woken up out of a sleep. And what I would do is, after that, I would kind of like pull my covers back, because right now I was like sleeping under my covers, and I would keep my eyes squinted, and I would see them. And it got to the point where I would know they were there before I even opened my eyes. And this is the way it was. It's just that feeling of like when somebody's standing behind you, you know that somebody's there, and you just kind of jump, oh, I didn't know you were there. This was when I was a child, and this was somebody that they were there, but I didn't know who they were. And throughout that whole period of my childhood, as far as from 7 to 13, this experience happened to me. And I guess I didn't know anything about UFOs or anything, you know, about ghosts, things like that, you know, Casper the Friendly Ghost, that kind of story, and, you know, watching these little things. But it was never anything that so close to me. But I knew what I experienced. And what makes it so significant to me, with what I'm saying now, is that it's something I never really told anybody until recently, and I just really started to actually bring it out and talk about it. But it happened with some events that went on later in my life. So what I did was I came up with this, and I'm letting you know that everything here is on the one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell you about the incident that brought me to this state, to where I'm doing this right now. The event that happened led to something else, and that was when I was at 11, between 7 and 13, I actually found something on me. And you know, it was in a private area. I thought all boys had it as far as the piercing light, but it was like a little black stick, a little tiny little black stick, probably a little like a black bristle of a brush, but it was inserted so perfectly, like it couldn't have been like a splinter. It was there, it was pushed in, and it came out the other side. You could see the two ends almost evenly. So I kind of wondered, it couldn't have happened to me as 2, 3 years. I would have remembered that. I would have remembered somebody having to do that to me. Because there's no way in the world I would have sat still for that. I don't think any boy would have. I don't think anybody would have sat still for that. But the way it was done, and the way it was there, it stayed on me. I felt it. I could feel sometimes the sensation, but it never really bothered me, but it did bother me. And then by the time I was 13 years old, my great-grandfather died. He died in March 1st, 1995. My dog went to be pound the same week because she used to just run loose. It was a German Shepherd, and I had her since 1969. She went to I lost her that week. So it was like one of those trying times in my life as far as 13 years old. I got a job working as a newspaper deliverer, and that was like in April. So by the time August came around, it was like this thing, I felt it again, and I said, I'm taking this thing out of me. So I was just on a mission at that moment. I'm taking it out. So I tried to squeeze my skin back and to try to get the end of it out. So what I did was I pulled and saw where I could try to push it out, and then I kind of like pulled it. I tried it a couple times, and then I finally got the end, and I pulled it out, and it was like a little, like I said, a little piece black, and I had it on my finger. And from that point, I took it, looked at it, and then after that, it just broke apart. It was kind of weird because when it came out solid. It didn't break or anything like that. And then at that point, it was done. I didn't have any more the visits like that. I didn't have any more dreams. But I still have the pierce part from where that existed. So that's why it stayed with me all the time. And now we go to 1995. I had another experience. This is years. I'm a grown person. I'm living in the house by myself. And this experience led me to, to do a few things as far as it dealt with a globe and the map. I'm taking a travel agency course. If you would have heard me speak about it on a couple of my other tapes that I spoke about this incident, but I never related those two, and I never went deep enough to why I stayed on this thing or what made it, come to me like that. What made me kind of like keep a fresh mind about it. 1996 comes around. Now, 1996, this is where the moment of the turning point of where everything I said took place. Now, I'm living not too far. I live over here off of Snowflake Park, which is not too far. Probably I can run a good sprint and get there. And this is where I lived at in 1996. I actually lived there from 1989 to 1997. And I could actually, like I said, run a sprint and get there. And this, like I said, this was completely woods. This was nowhere near what it is now. The people come fishing here. They always talked about fishing in the woods, but this is pretty deep woods as far as coming out. People did come out at shooting, but I used to hear people gunshots around here. It was a military practice area. That was before I moved here. This had to be like in the early 60s or 70s, something like that. But it was way before I moved here when that happened. Back over here on the side, like I said, all this was woods at that time. Well, anyway, during this time in my life, like I said, I was living in this neighborhood, and I said I was just trying to get as far as property. I would buy some houses and things, and that was my mission at that point. So one day, I had let a friend of mine, girlfriend of mine, stay at a house of mine because she had lost her apartment, so she basically was homeless. So I tried not to get involved because she was, we always bumped heads. And I said, well, you do your thing, I do my thing. But when it came down to what happened, I couldn't really turn my back on her. So I tried to avoid it as much as I can, help her stay where she would stay, but I couldn't just ignore her. So I let her stay in the house. So I let her stay in my house for like 9 months. And she was only supposed to stay there for a short period of time. So being that she was supposed to be there for a short period of time, I was kind of like, when are you going to leave? So at this point, this day, I had to just basically get this situation straightened out. So what I did was, I said, I'm going to take this time off and we're going to go out and we're going to talk about this. So I stayed out all day as far as talking about it in my yard, my garage, and then we went from that point, we went to the, you know, to where she was at, to her house, which was my house. But, after that, what I did was, I talked to her all day. I was talking to her as much as I can to see if I can get down to the bottom of this thing. So I didn't think I was getting much leeway with her because it just seemed like it was just going in one ear and out the other. So it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I said, well, almost actually about 2:30, almost 2:45. I asked her because she had, you know, we haven't eaten all day. So I said, let's go to the Miami sub before Miami sub's closed. So we jumped in the car and we head out to Miami sub, which was on Orange Blossom Trail at the time, or South Orange Blossom Trail in Orlando. But what happened was, we got there, I ordered some wings, she ordered wings, I ordered gyro, french fries, Coke. Came back to the house. It was such a nice day, night out. It was like the way I feel it right now, but it was dark. And we went inside the house, and I said, let's go back outside, because it was such a nice night. Let's go outside and we can meet out, and you know, because we were already outside talking pretty much the night. So what I did was, when we stepped back out, I sat in the car. She was, you know, she had a blue Nissan in the car, in the yard, and a white Sunbird. The Nissan was broken down, it was her car. The Sunbird I bought for her because I kind of messed her car up, but she was supposed to pay me back, but that's another story in itself. She was sitting on that car and facing me towards the garage, towards would be this way, where I'm at now. I was facing towards the street, and I could see the street light, I could see my other house in the cul-de-sac. And I'm starting to continue back talking to her about, you know, motivating her about, you know, if you do this, you can actually get your own place. You know, you don't want nobody to tell you what to do. You're kind of like, you're on your own, independent woman. You can do this, you can do this. So I'm giving this thing and try to make this speech as motivational as possible to her. But I don't know, she just wants it away, like, you know, I guess I'm like a movie or something. And so as I'm speaking to her, all of a sudden, at the corner of my eye, I'm just like, I'm looking at her like I'm looking at the camera now, and I noticed something coming, and I just caught it, and I turned my head, and I see this thing diving out the sky. And it was just so, to the, you know, obvious to the point that I had to stop. So I stopped, and I looked, and I don't say nothing to her. She's just, you know, not far away from me. So I stepped back, kind of like, see what this is. So when it came down, I had a queen palm about 3 feet off that's about 3 feet high. And we had left the door open in the house, so we had a light from inside the house that cut into the grass, the darkness of the grass. And you could see like that type of kind of a sharp edge. So what ended up happening was, I'm stopped. I have no more conversation with this, because now I'm controlling, I'm basically concentrating on what's happening in this here, right? So as this thing comes down, it basically comes and touches almost the top of the palm, the queen palm. And when it touched the queen palm, and it went back up, it almost went back up into the light of where my house is at, as far as the door was open. And the reason why I'm standing here right now, because one, the area itself didn't exist. Two, was that fountain right there. See the way the fountain drops and it comes down like this. Now we know that's water, we know that's sprouting, but this is what it looked like, in a sense that it was in a form of that type of long shape, and it came down and it dropped. I mean, I seen it dropping right over the pole, and it dropped the way the pole, way that the fountain is dropping right now, and it looked, like I said, a puff of smoke about 9 to 10 feet long. I mean, it's just perfect the way this thing is, because that's the way it looked. But I know that is of course, a fountain in water. But to have something that actually came down and it swooped and it touched almost to the palm, queen palm, and it came back up. The same way the gold was like this, it did that, but it jerked up. It jerked up to where it went back up, and then it went over the house. I thought it went inside, but it went over the house because I saw the tail of it. So at that point, I know I'm dealing with some intelligent situation, because why would it just go right there, go up, and then right into over the top of the house? I mean, it just basically stayed over the roof. So I'm just standing, I'm just sitting there for a minute, actually for about 10 seconds, and I asked Myra, I said, Myra, you see that? She goes, no, but I heard it. I heard it, but I was so busy paying attention to what it looked like and where it was going that I wasn't thinking about hearing it. So at that point, I had no more conversation with it. So after that, I was like, okay, I'm quiet. All I'm hearing now is the sound of the occasional car, a buzzing of a bee or a mosquito, and then silence. And it was dark. And I had a feeling, something told me that it's still around. And I don't know. I know it was still around. That's all I had the feeling of. And I didn't know if it was coming back, why, but it seemed so intentional, the way it came down, and it was like 15 feet away from me, that this had to be something on purpose. And that's what I just got that feeling from. So what I did was, I said, I'm going to go into the house, because I wanted to go to a boat show in the morning, and I had just pretty much, I was done with whatever I had to say to her as far as that. So I went in the house, sat down. I wasn't sleepy at all, and I decided, kind of like, wonder what's going on. And as time went on, you know, I kind of realized that this was not no coincidence, because it was actually the same night, a year later, to the same time, that the incident happened to me back on August 11th, 1995 at 3:30 in the morning, 3:30 a.m. And so I kind of put those two together as far as knowing that this is something that at that point was like a telepathic type of message, as far as, you know, it was, I got something that got in my head,